In the 21st century, when you hear the word Celtic, what typically comes to mind? Probably one of the 6 Celtic nations: Scotland, Ireland, Man, Wales, Cornwall or Brittany. While these regions are largely regarded as being the Celtic heartland of modern-day Europe, they represent just a remnant of what was once historically the homeland of the Celtic peoples. Many would be surprised to hear that it wasn't the Scots or the Irish who were the first Celtic groups to come into contact with Christianity, but rather, the Galatians. Yes, that's right. These Galatians. Galatia, a region of central Anatolia in modern-day Turkey, was inhabited by a Celtic group during the Roman period known as, well, the Galatians. In fact, the name Galatia itself has the same origins as the name Gaul, which is the word the Romans used to refer to France, at the time largely inhabited by Celtic tribes. The Galatians are inarguably most well known for the fact that the Apostle Paul addressed his epistle to the Galatians to them. When referring to Celtic Christianity, it is important to note that this does not simply refer to Celts who practiced Christianity. Rather, there developed very early on in European Christian history a unique branch of the Christian family tree, with their own distinct customs, culture, and traditions. Some prefer to use the term insular rather than Celtic Christianity, which refers to Christianity practiced in the British Isles. While much remains unknown about Celtic Christianity today, they are thought to have held similar beliefs to other Western European Christians at the time. However, they also possessed many unique qualities that made them a distinct community. The Druids, the priestly class of Celtic society, were largely welcoming of the Christian religion spreading throughout Celtic lands in Roman-controlled Britain and France. Druids were highly educated and possessed a deep curiosity in new philosophies and traditions, explaining their interest in Christianity. This is one of the reasons for the rapid growth of Christianity in the Celtic lands during the early centuries AD. Located thousands of kilometers away from the birthplace of this new religion, across the sea, Celts still found it easy to adopt the Christian religion, weaving it into their own culture, rather than abandoning their culture to embrace the new faith. Perhaps the most notable example of this are symbols such as the Celtic cross and St. Brigid's cross, which were adapted from earlier Celtic symbols and incorporated Celtic art and imagery into their design. Other examples include the veneration of Celtic saints, such as St. Patrick, St. Columba and St. Brigid. In the case of St. Brigid particularly, some suggest that she was the result of the Christianization of a Celtic goddess by the same name, whose myths became incorporated into hagiographic tradition. Others argue that she was a chief Druid at the temple of the goddess who was responsible for converting it into a Christian monastery. Unfortunately, little is known to us today about what exactly the beliefs and practices of Celtic Christians at the time were, but many claim that the tradition denied the authority of a pope, was less authoritarian than the Catholic Church, and was more interconnected with Celtic polytheism and nature. Celtic Christians put a deep emphasis on their spiritual connection with nature, and are said to have believed in so-called thin places. These were geographic locations that became sacred sites, where worshippers believed they could become closer to the Holy Spirit. During the medieval period, monastic life became a defining aspect of Celtic Christianity, and many small abbeys often became the center of religious communities. Perhaps the most notable aspect of Celtic monasticism that emerged was the unique style of a monk's tonsure. The exact shape of the tonsure is unknown, but it is believed that monks would shave their head from ear to ear, from their forehead to the back of their ears, if even in the shape of a triangle. Some suggest that this style was linked to that of Druids during the Iron Age, and was worn in Celtic tradition as late as the 9th century, although it faced opposition from Roman tradition. Unlike modern Roman Catholicism, marriage was practiced among the clergy in Celtic Christian communities, and even women could become ordained as priests. During the Roman period, Christianity throughout the empire was mainly an urban phenomenon. The religion spread quickly throughout the cities, but found difficulty penetrating rural areas. This is how the term pagan developed, as a word Christians used to describe polytheism. A paganus in Latin referred to someone who inhabited a village or rural area, and this term later became synonymous with non-Christian. Because Roman Christianity was firmly tied to Roman cities, it was largely not the Roman missionaries who spread Christianity among the country folk, but rather Celtic monks, who were much more accustomed to and comfortable with pagan culture. Although Celtic Christianity came to dominate much of Western Europe for centuries, Many Celtic realms fell under the control of Germanic tribes following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. Most of these tribes practiced Germanic polytheism or Arian Christianity, but despite this, Celtic Christianity continued to endure, and Celtic missionaries are in part responsible for the conversion of the Saxons and Franks to Christianity. As Roman Catholic influence grew, however, many of the traditions and beliefs unique to Celtic Christianity were gradually replaced. Although these unique Celtic traditions no longer exist in the form they once did, it is still interesting to see how Celtic culture has had an influence on Christianity to this day. Some examples of this include holidays such as St. Patrick's Day, the feast day of the saint who is credited with converting the Irish. Another is Samhain, the Gaelic harvest festival that was adapted to become All Saints' Day, or Halloween, in Christian tradition. Studying how Christianity has shaped Celtic culture, and vice versa, is not just fascinating, but also vital in understanding Christian history and the future of the faith. Despite having disappeared as a recognizable community during the Middle Ages, Celtic Christianity continued to impact modern Christianity. For instance, the practice of the ordination of women by the Church of England is seen by some as a way for the Anglican Church to break its ties to Catholicism, reconnecting the British Isles back to its Celtic Christian roots. Another instance is the recent emergence of the Celtic Orthodox Church in England and France, who are attempting to renew the apostolic origin of Celtic lands. There are many other interesting aspects of Celtic Christianity that, if you're interested in, you should definitely look into. Until next time, God bless.